Okay, I take that as Todd leaning yes, or is that unfair?
I would think that Todd would be leaning yes, because Todd knows, of course he knows what a battle it would be, but Todd knows how important it is. I mean, this is about the future of our country.
The first dude has weighed in, and the Palin family once again is everywhere.
And Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Carl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know. Twitter.com/Rick Klein, Twitter.com/John Carl. John, up on the Hill today. Tell us what's going on in your world.
We're starting with Axed. Down at the White House, it looks like David Axelrod's departure as the president's top political advisor will be accelerated. We're now told that he will probably leave the White House right after the State of the Union address. And in the process, you will also see an accelerated welcome to the White House for David Plouffe. So Obama 2.0 may be coming a little bit earlier than expected. But Rick, this is not exactly a shakeup. All Axelrod is doing is taking a little bit extra time before coming in to take over that re-election effort.
More of a shuffle of the deck than a shakeup, certainly. But the timeline changing a little bit. David Axelrod will get some time by himself, and Plouffe will have a chance to start working whatever magic he has left in the White House. Remember, he was charged with the 2010 Democratic campaign efforts toward the end to not great effect. Next up today, down in Kokomo, since if John Carl can quote Doors songs, I can quote the Beach Boys. President Obama is in Kokomo, Indiana, at a Chrysler plant today, trying to make the case that the auto bailout was a good thing. Austin Goolsbee, that White House economist, took to the whiteboard to say the same thing. Take a look at this.
For some of you, the last you heard about General Motors, they were supposed to have been on their last legs and about to die. But that's not quite how it worked out.
Almost Glenn Beckian in his approach to education there, John.
Yeah, and they really do have a story to tell here. Of course, it'll still be some time before taxpayers get all the money back, but it's hard to argue that the bailout of the auto industry worked out certainly better than expected. Next up, Rick, Demented. I love this one. Jim DeMint is out now raising money for Joe Miller. Remember Joe Miller? Still trying to fight for that Senate seat up in Alaska when it looks like an all but hopeless case. Out comes Jim DeMint again saying that conservatives, Republicans need to rally to Joe Miller to help him in his legal battle with Lisa Murkowski. And Rick, I got to tell you, this may shock you, but DeMint is fighting this based on the theory that Alaskans who can't spell really don't have a right to vote. He writes in this fundraising letter, they will be fighting to, talking about Murkowski's people, they will be fighting to bend the law in Alaska, which requires write-in ballots to accurately state the candidate's name.
Wow, and if you needed any evidence that Jim DeMint really doesn't care what his Republican colleagues think of him in the Senate, this is it. This is a lost cause, and he is still fighting it. And finally today, what the Foxtrot? It is the Dancing with the Stars finale, and the big story, of course, is Bristol Palin coinciding with her mother's book tour. Bristol Palin is in the finals tonight, and the big question is whether John Carl will make a bold prediction on this. I am predicting that Jennifer Grey will win in the Dancing with the Stars finale. John Carl, do you accept the challenge? Will you go in another direction?
Rick, I have absolutely nothing to add to this at all. I've got more important business here. We are joined by our guest, Chris Van Hollen, of course, the chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, outgoing. I'm sure glad that you're outgoing at this point. Thank you for joining us on Top Line.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to stay away from the Dancing with the Stars as well.
Smart move, smart move. I want to start by throwing some of your own words back at you. I'm sure you'll appreciate this. Sure. But on Election Day, remember November 2nd, you and Speaker Pelosi addressed some reporters. The speaker said that Democrats were on track to keep their majority. You agreed with that assessment and actually went further shortly before noon on November 2nd, saying, as we speak, voters are proving the pundits wrong. We saw the early signs of that in the early voting states, and the vote by mail and the in-person voting. And today, as people are opening the doors and in the morning, and we went to the polls, we saw strong Democratic turnout much higher than had been predicted. So were you just completely wrong about what was going on? Were your metrics just completely off, or were you misleading us?
Well, the pundits were clearly right. We were clearly wrong about this. You always have hope. We knew what a tough election this would be. We knew it would be tough because of a very difficult playing field from the start. You layer on top of that a really tough economy where there are a lot of people out of work, and you add to that about $70 million in these secret funds, and you get a pretty tough and toxic election environment. But, you know, I've drawn to an inside straight before playing poker, and we hoped, obviously, that there'd be some scenario where that'd be possible. So
even on November 2nd, right before noon.
You always hold out hope. Anyone that goes into an election telling you that they can guarantee for sure what's going to happen is usually wrong, and we obviously hope for the best. We did our whole cycle planning for the worst. I mean, we really did plan, and this is a case where even a lot of preparation obviously was not enough to prevent a huge tidal wave from knocking out a lot of our members. I should say that we take some consolation at the DCCC that our members and candidates have said that we did everything we possibly could do to help them, and in fact some independent analysts have now said that it actually could have been worse. As bad as it was, it could have been worse, but for some of the steps that we took.
Mr. Van Hollen, a net loss of 62 House seats and counting. As you know, this wipes out all the gains that you made in 2006 and 2008. Looking at the landscape now, how long is it going to take Democrats to be able to climb back into the majority? You think the majority will be in play, that Democrats can win it back as early as 2012? Well,
look, we're just sort of beginning now to look through the election results. It's going to be about 24, 25 seats. That's certainly doable. I'm not making any grand predictions at this particular point in time. It's going to depend a lot, obviously, on whether or not we're successful at working with the president to put more people back to work and get the economy moving again. Anytime you have as many people out of work as we have today, that's tough, and understandably so. And the voters sent a pretty clear message that they are frustrated with the slow pace of recovery. They recognize that the president inherited a tough position. But at the same time, like all of us, the voters want to move ahead faster when it comes to jobs and economic recovery.
I want to get you to react to some news out this morning. Congressman Bill Owens of New York, Democrat, says that he may well vote for John Boehner for Speaker of the House. He says that when he voted for Nancy Pelosi last time around, he was assured that she would govern from the middle and focus primarily on jobs. He says that the Speaker, that did not happen, and he made it clear if it didn't happen, he wasn't going to support her again. What's your reaction to Congressman Owens?
Well, that's news to me. I'd want to, number one, confirm what Bill Owens said. Things are often reported, sometimes often misreported, so I'd want an opportunity to talk with him. The Speaker has made very clear that her number one priority is jobs in the economy, and we're looking forward to working with the president and with our Republican colleagues, wherever possible, to try and make sure that we move the economy forward.
Mr. Van Hollen, in the short term, the debate in the lame duck session, of course, will be the expiring Bush tax cuts. You only have a couple of weeks to deal with this issue. The White House has signaled pretty strongly that they're willing to accept a compromise that would extend all of the tax cuts for a year or 2 years. A lot of Democrats think that's a mistake. What's the position of the House of Representatives? Do you want the White House to hold firm on this and only extend for the middle class?
Well, I think the position of the great majority in the House of Representatives is the position that the president took going into the election, which is that we need to make sure, number one, that the middle class has tax relief, that 98% of the American people continue to have that tax relief, that we don't want to see their taxes going up. And at the same time, we don't want to add $700 billion to our deficit, but by providing tax breaks for the folks at the very top, when we know, number one, that has not contributed to job creation. In fact, we know the end of that movie. And number two, the notion that these are somehow the small businesses has been shown to be untrue. It turned out that a lot of these revenues that are being generated are actually coming out of hedge funds, Fortune 100 companies, and a lot of Washington law and lobbying firms. So let's get the deficit under control. We're going to have a vote on that in the House when we get back. We'll have to see what the Senate does after that.
But let me just be clear, though, from your personal position as a representative from Maryland, how would you vote on a bill to extend all of them for a temporary 2-3 years?
Well, I'm going to vote in favor of the bill we're going to have in front of the House when we get back. And that bill will be to make sure we provide middle class tax relief. It will not include tax breaks for the folks at the very top.
And do you think most of the caucus would oppose this idea of extending them all?
I think
even temporarily.
Yes, and I think what the caucus wants to do is see at least a decoupling. In other words, regardless of what the other ultimate timelines and arrangements are, that at least you decouple these, because right now the whole strategy of Republicans is pretty clear. They want to make sure that the middle class is essentially held hostage to tax breaks for the very wealthy. They know as soon as you create some distance and separation there, that it's going to be hard for them to go out, the Republicans, to go out and say, hey, let's provide tax breaks for the very wealthy. So they're using the middle class literally as a hostage to make sure that they get what they really want, which are the breaks for the folks at the very top.
All right, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, Democrat of Maryland, the outgoing chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Thanks for coming on and taking your licks after the end of the election.
Good to be with you, Rick and John.
Thanks a lot.